Hello Cancer, welcome back to my channel, The Vibes Inside. I am Mariana and I am here to do your reading. I am ready, I have pre-shuffled the cards and I have a message on the table and it's actually quite clear. So, like the previous readings, if you have somehow maybe looked at them, there is this feeling of letting go of something and embracing something new. I talk about in the other readings that there's a shift going on between the third dimension and the fifth dimension, that we can embrace a new energy if we want to. It is here as an invitation. But in order to get there, you could say, or in order to maybe align with the fifth dimension, there could be a time of purging or releasing ourselves from stuff that is not necessarily helping us, is not necessarily beneficial. And I see it also in the cards here. At the bottom of the deck, as the driver card, so like a driving energy that has been, you could say, helping you or helping us as a collective, Cancer Collective, to move towards a different energy. We have the Seven of Air here. And it's clarified with the Ghost dance. So somehow I get the feeling like, if you go back and look at the Aries reading, I talked about like Aries feeling some kind of still stand after a storm. It's a bit of the same. This is air energy, and ghost dance is there is a person here, but we can also almost not see her or him here. Like it is so ghost-like or muddy somehow. The Seven of Air is also a card of Seven of Swords. It's usually a card of betrayal, of, you could say, betrayal, backstabbing, lying, stealing. The feeling that you are dealing with something that feels, you could say, ghost-like, right? It feels like you can't trust it. It feels like it has an energy to it that is uncomfortable, that is not trustworthy, something that is not kind and caring. Seven of Air is, it can be, like the swords, you can point them towards yourself also here. It could be self-loathing. It could be, like feelings of guilt and shame that may have been projected upon you. And if you took it for valid, it kind of has created like an environment for you that feels like you are always dealing with something from the past, perhaps, like a ghost here, like something is there that is keeping you occupied. I want to say Seven of Air could also be, the feeling of being occupied. Like your thoughts are occupied with something that is, well, the Ghost dance is not necessarily a good card, right? It says that you are dancing with something here that could be from the past. Again, Seven of Air is, there could be guilt here and shame or but it's interesting how she sits here and they kind of come and listen. I almost feel like like someone is here. They and some others here are gathering around this person, almost like they are a storyteller. They say something, right? But this person has a mask on. And what I get from this is this feeling of, like you have maybe relied on someone, relied on someone's advice, relied on someone's you know, like appearance and what they said, what they were selling. I almost want to say selling, like they're selling you something. Selling you something here. But there's a shadow. Again, she has a mask on. There's a shadow that follows this around here. Or, you know, like it could be yourself, right? That you're speaking a story of something here. That something is with you, or has been, or something, a mind spin, something you have been thinking and holding on to. The Seven of Air can be like a, well, when we get to the Eight of Air or Eight of Swords, we are definitely feeling that we are trapped in some kind of mind prison and we can't seem to get out. But the Seven is usually, I feel like a card where you're discovering something. You discover that something you have relied on, something you trusted, something that you may have looked up to, that it was hollow, like, or a ghost is kind of hollow, right? It has this, and like, you know, like a scream from the past, a word from the, here again, I have a bit similar feeling like the Gemini reading. Like in the Gemini reading, I talked about an energy where Gemini felt like they have outgrown a situation. Like it could be a situation where, you know, like when children live at home, they have nobody else but their parents and the life in the home that is kind of their base. That it's the base where they are, you know, like supposed to feel safe and be guided and protected and taken care of. And maybe it has worked out for a long time for Gemini. But in that reading that I have uploaded, you can look at it if you want to. And it's also called something about being like outgrown your reality. Like that there is a story or a narrative that seems like it's outgrown. Like it's just a story from the past, you know. We could say that this is a story that has to do with the past, something that has been, you have been dealing with this. This is underlying energy, so it has been what I call like a driver. It's something that even from the subconscious mind, you may not have forgotten all about it, right? But then suddenly it's like it comes more and more forward in your awareness, and you're then dealing with something here. You may need to face something you have postponed, or again, because it's like you're dealing with this and it feels so difficult to see through it and actually get a real message. It's like you're as I said, like the ghost dance is first of all, well, it can go on for a very long time. Like a ghost doesn't die like that, right? It can stick around for a long time. It can feel like you're again occupied. I get occupied, right? Occupied with something. Your mind has been occupied with something old. A ghost is usually someone who has lived but then died, maybe under very bad circumstances. That's sometimes why they stick around, because there's unfinished business somehow. And And this could be what you have been dealing with. Like maybe you could hear them here. Like maybe you have been able to, it's all, again, I get the feeling of something like a storyteller, that someone is telling a story, telling you a story. And you have maybe been, you know, like listening to it and kind of, you know, like if someone died under very bad circumstances and nobody knows about that story, you know, like because they are in the ghost situation here, nobody can hear them. Like the story they're telling is, not everybody can hear them or pick it up. But maybe you can, Cancer. Maybe that's what you have been doing here, right? That you have been like maybe been able to hear the story. It's almost like either this is you, right? Who sits here and listens to the stories here of something around you. Or the one here is this one who tells you a story and you can pick it up, like you can hear it or feel it, or and you have been in that dance with them for a long time. It's like someone needed you to hear their story. In the book, The Ghost Dance talks about, it says, the ghost dance of the American Plain Indians united the spirits of the living with those of the ancestors that bring peace to the world. When the ancestors are honored, they bring harmony to us. When we hold them responsible for all that is wrong with us today, they haunt us. Honor the spirit of the ancestors and receive their lessons and gifts. This includes honoring your own past lives. Okay, so here we have a story also that could talk about, take that how it resonates, right? I can get several stories. But according to the book, this could talk about as long as you were maybe dishonoring, you know, like being angry with a parent or grandparent or circumstances in your ancestors' life. Maybe the feeling of like that I actually have that from the next card that's on the table. I'll show you in a minute. But like a repeating loop of something. Almost like, you know, like you have inherited something because you grew up in a certain family dynamic, a family role. So you have inherited something that is now playing out again and again and again, like a, I don't know if I would call it a curse, but like a tie, you know, like a knot that keeps being spun, or that keeps reoccurring somehow. Maybe you feel like it could be the feeling that these are your ancestors here, right? And you sit here like someone who can hear them, right? And maybe you have been angry, you know, like we can be that with our parents, right? Or grandparents. If we know that something happened, or we know how we were treated and we feel that we were treated unfairly, or that we were, you know, like punished or abused or something, right? Then we can be angry here. And as long as we are angry and we can't forgive ourselves or forgive them for the circumstances we lived in, then we cannot have happiness, because the stories haunt us. Again, I feel like it's stories from like way back, but they have been present and you have been needing to deal with them here. This is underlying energy, so this could have been going on for a while. But then as overall energy, I actually have this guy here, the 10 of water. So this is beautiful card. 10 of water is like the utmost feeling of love and appreciation. He's quite happy here, right? It's almost, I want to say it's almost like your ancestors smile at you. There's something you've been doing. You've been in this ghost dance and it leads you into this. Like, this is a driver in you that makes you go through a process that leads you to this. So whatever ghost dance or storm you feel like you have been in, mind storm you feel like you've been in, is leading you towards this, which is beautiful, right? It's almost like they're smiling back at you, right? Because now I get a feeling of like forgiveness, understanding, acceptance of what was, an acceptance of that sometimes also things are done still out of love, but it may not feel like that, right? The point is, again, as a soul, we are here to grow. And if we come here and repeat the same thing every time, we're not growing. So some of the speed bumps that come in may seem like they are unloving, because, well, what is the saying? Like, those we love most are also those we are maybe toughest with. Does that make sense? Like, because we are invested, because it's important for us that they do well or that they overcome the hurdles, right? We want them to succeed. We want to give them whatever we can tell them, our best advice, our best support, or our best knowledge. We want them to succeed, so we can be more tough on them sometimes, right? Because we know what life requires out there. And therefore, we may put them, like, correct them. We may want to change some of their habits. We may want to, like, advise them in a certain direction because we feel it's helpful. Whether that is helpful, well, we may need to ask the next generation or the next one, right? Because I don't know if it's helpful always. As long as you give an advice, but you still allow them to do what they find is best, then that's the best thing you can do, I think. Because they have to make mistakes, or they have to figure out at least what's right for them, or if it worked out. Because it didn't work out for me doesn't mean that it can't work out for them, perhaps, right? So just maybe allowing that. So it seems like for you, Cancer, that there is a beautiful energy here that comes out of, like, I feel like, again, a bit like the Aries reading, like a storm, or like a mind chaos, you could say, where you need to, or maze. I've said that in almost every reading this time around with the tomatoes as front picture, that it seems like that there's been some kind of storm, or is coming a storm that is leading you here, right? That the storm can take you through this idea that you can't trust anyone. That's also this card here, the 7 of Air here, that you can't trust anyone. And one of the reasons for that is perhaps because you were taught you can't trust anyone, right? That it comes from your parents here. And it comes from their parents and their parents and their parents, because that's what life taught them. That people are untrustworthy, you can't rely on everyone, keep your money close, all these kinds of advice that can come from, and it's maybe well meant, but maybe not deserving you. You have to figure that out, right? And I just feel like probably maybe you have been diving into some kind of story here. In the ghost stand, I want to say probably there could be a sense of lack mentality here, scarcity as well, because most of us have grown up with that and needing to somehow work your way through what that means for you, and not necessarily blame your parents or grandparents or anything. It's part of this dimension. Like it's just, there is duality everywhere. So if there's rich, there's also poor. Like that's just how it is. That's the energy of the duality. So if there are angry people, there are also happy people, right? Rich people do not have to be happy. Rich people can be angry, and you can have poor happy people, right? Or the other way around. But it's like, if there is me, there's probably also my opposite somewhere. And if I can, appreciate that, if I can appreciate that for me to be here, there is an opposite. And even though they are very different than me, probably make different decisions, they maybe, they are totally opposite than me, I can appreciate it because it allows me to be here, right? And because I'm here, it allows them to be here. So even though, people may have been aggressive or violent, or they have treated you very badly, it was definitely not for you. Or it felt like it has been abusive. And we may not like them, right? We may actually be offensive. We want to, some can even be, revengeful. Some are punishing their siblings or parents because of some old matter. But it seems like whatever the reason was, is that it's allowing you to come to some kind of clarity here. And this is where I have the loop. Like I saw these loops here. That is here on the bottom of the deck here, like there's a loop of, that's what I feel like, whatever you have been dealing with, it has been maybe multiple rounds of something you had to shed or go through or see a potential in it, right? That sometimes it also just a potential that, okay, yeah, I understand that, for example, my father definitely grew up in scarcity mindset, lack mentality. He grew up during the war. He was born during the World War II. He grew up in a very, it was a rather large family, but they lived in the countryside and they did not have much money. So they learned to stick together and help each other, and out of small things you can create or build, or bigger things, right? That out of little wheat or little corn, you can still bake bread or something, So they had little money, and out of that he learned something, right? He learned something from his parents, and there was under the war, during the war, they experienced like the rations, like that you could only get a certain portion of certain goods when you went to the groceries. So a certain portion milk, depending on how many people there were in the household, you could get certain tickets. So for a small family, they could only have one little portion of milk, and for a larger family, maybe they could have a little more. But the point is that it was reduced, everything was reduced, so that it was a minimum for each person. And so therefore, of course, he grew up with that mindset. And money has like a certain value to him. He's not like greedy, or it's not like that, but he's just very aware. And he's had all kinds of like advice. And my mother did too. Like both of them grew up during this time. It was a time of, well, flying planes over the countryside there, right? And the invasion of Germany and so on. It was that time. It was a time where people felt threatened. There was things you couldn't buy. You couldn't get new clothes. You couldn't get new boots. You couldn't get the stuff that you may have actually needed that was worn out. You had to lend from a neighbor, or you had to like the stuff you had grown out of, your siblings were now using, right? And even if it was almost like destroyed anyway, they still used it. And my grandmother was a rather resourceful woman. She figured out how to make soup out of nothing, like something like that. And if you grow up like that, I haven't like experienced that. I haven't experienced that. I have experienced something else, but I haven't experienced that, where the concern about food and therefore survival was much more apparent. Like it was in like their awareness every day. After the war stopped, it became different, but like the memory was still there. And if we go even further back, there was also a World War I. So if we talk to our ancestors here, they can tell us a story about something. And that story, if it gets imprinted in our mind, it becomes what we live from. But it's not necessarily a helpful energy if you want to be more free or feel more, like whole or safe or something. It's not helping. It's not a wrong story. It's not necessarily a wrong or bad story. It's just a story. And these are lived lives. Like they have lived lives like this, of scarcity and lack and loss and grief, due to illness or something else that couldn't be treated at that point in time, but which we treat every day today. So I understand that some of the older generations may think that we are spoiled, perhaps. I understand that. But nonetheless, I live in this generation and I haven't lived their lives. I can still feel that I was not treated well. But if I imagine maybe just a little bit how they were treated and the circumstances they grew up in. Like I know my father, he grew up in a house where there was only one source of heating. And it was an oven placed in the living room. All other rooms, there were no heating, no warmth. And so in the winter time, it was a cold house to be in, unless you were in the living room, right? So these are circumstances that maybe many people can't really relate to. I can't even. But that was their reality. That was their day-to-day life. And so I understand that some of the things that come from that time, like we haven't experienced it, and they usually, if they come from the working class, as my parents did, they were hard workers, because it was the only way to get by and get things done, right? So I carry a storyline, you would say, of this, right? I carry a storyline of something here. And that's what I feel like. This has maybe been how you have conducted your life. That's how you have seen your life, how you have moved forward, how you got by, because you were still dancing with some of this here. But it can also give perspective, right? It can give a perspective that today I live under totally different circumstances. Like the apartment I live in, at that point in time, if that would have been my parents' time, there would have been living 10 people in this apartment. And I live here with my son, right? I have heating in every room. I have a refrigerator with food in it. I have the things that I more or less need, right? So what am I complaining about? Like if a voice from the past, they would look at me and say, but what are you complaining about? And that's what I mean with perspective, that maybe we can actually find a bit of different understanding if we took time to actually examine this, right? That if we took a time to examine something here, it probably would tell us a little bit about our own circumstances. And the point of this is not to say anything about our generation and how comfort in our life is now increased, because I think it is increased. We just don't, we forget it. Like I said in the Gemini reading also, that it's like we come here with this idea that our needs are always met, and if we feel as a slight element of discomfort, we get frustrated or grumpy, right? How annoying is it that someone is playing loud music when we don't want it? But when we want it, they may not want it, right? But that's this idea. Some like quiet, some like noise, or like activities that are like that. We will never, all of us, be satisfied at the same time. That's part of being here. The third dimension is a hard dimension, harsh dimension. I just mentioned my parents' story, and if we go even further back, it's more, right? And the wars they were fighting at that time, I talk about perspective here. I think that someone got perspective about their own life and could actually, like take a look around and look at the stuff you have. Today, maybe in the Western world, many children expect that, or regard a nice computer as a necessity. That is like a given, right? But maybe it isn't. If we look at starving children in Ethiopia, right? It's not a given. It's a given if the circumstances allow for it, but it's not a given. We talk about comfort and discomfort, or we talk about survival, right? These elements, I've said that before, these elements is very difficult for us not to have in our awareness because we are humans. We have a human body, and the human body needs certain things, and it has an antenna towards the things that are comfortable, or if not comfortable, then where we survive. Like if we are in that stage, then we talk about surviving. And when we are over the surviving state, that's not an issue. Now we talk about comfort. And when we are over that, we can talk about other of these personal needs from the Maslow needs pyramid, right? Or desire pyramid. That first we have survival, then we have some other stages that talk about social status, something about that, right? But the point is that we can't escape the fact that we do have needs. Needs that would not be there if we were pure consciousness. If we had no body. If we were bodiless and we had, you could say, a consciousness that was kind of just flowing around here, there would be no worry. The worry comes with the body and what the body needs. What the ego existence wants, that's... And the ego is a protective mechanism to the fact that we are human and we can die, will die. So in the meantime, our ego creates all these wishes and things that we want. It seems to me here with the 10 of water here, because this is a 10 of cups card, like we could say fulfilling relationship, romantic fulfilling relationships, but somehow it doesn't come through like that today. It comes through more like a true, you could say, appreciation of life. It's almost like because of this, and also in spite of it, perhaps, I sit here now and I can look at my life through a different lens, because I got perspective. It's clarified with the page of Gabriel here, and this card has come out in, I don't know if it's all readings this time around, this little guy here, page of fire. But this guy talks about like feeling energetic, being brave, optimistic, and playful. And well, we can look at this guy here, and he looks a bit like that, right? He looks like he's happy. It feels a little bit like, you know, like here she's sitting and listening to some kind of story here. Now it's almost like you're listening to someone else's, like someone else. It's like you got yourself a new inner tape recorder, or you got yourself like a new, I don't know if I will call it a muse, but you know, it's like there has been activated a different voice. Like these voices here are very different, right? This one talks about the muddy past. And here it feels a little bit like with the 7 that it's not a funny argument to sit there with the 7 of air. It's also feeling, you know, like maybe if this is a situation, you sit in a group here, then with the 7, you would feel uncomfortable. You would feel maybe unwelcome, feeling left out, feeling rejected perhaps here. So whatever story you have been in here with these 2 cards, I want to, it's a difficult one. Like, it can be a card that also talks about leaving something in the past, maybe saying goodbye to relationships, like choosing not to engage with certain people, choosing to say goodbye to something you were once part of. As I said in the Gemini reading, it felt like the teenager or the young person that was off to college, right? Like having outgrown the home or your teenage room, right? That now you need your own apartment, or you're getting your first job. You know, something like ready for a different step, like you've outgrown a bubble. I talked about an awareness bubble in the Gemini reading. Like you've had an awareness, but now it's like you've outgrown it because you figured something out. You got perspective. And because of that, this guy is now here. Or the feeling, right? The feeling that that because I got perspective, or maybe you even found peace, like found peace with your ancestors, your parents or grandparents, right? Understanding that this dimension is not allowing for, it's a yin and yang thing. It's not allowing for, it's a limited existence in the 3rd dimension. It doesn't allow for a lot of abundance or joy or happiness. It is a restrictive energy. And I talked about when you look at the front picture of the tomatoes, you can see that we start with a little flower that turns into a little green tomato, and then it grows until it's actually maturing and ripe and ready, and we can eat it, and it's sweet and everything. But up till then, it's not that ready, right? It's like what you are going through, like all the other zodiacs during this reading the readings that I do right now, it's about maturing. It's about growth. It's about realizing something that, or you could say ascension. It's about aligning with something new. Like from being one little green tomato, now you become a little bigger, right? Like but still maybe green, as I said in the Gemini reading, and maybe you don't agree with me, but I said that I believe that the evolutionary state of human beings right now is like how we see 3-year-old toddlers who make temper tantrums, and like we are still very reactive in our way of dealing with the world. Like if we don't get it our way, or if it's not comfortable, we get like a bit annoyed, right? Some get very angry and become very reactive and abusive and yells, and you know, like it's quite the same as a 3-year-old. Some have learned to deal a little more with their emotions, but we may still feel the discomfort, right? We may still, oh, this neighbor is annoying, right? Why do they have to mow the lawn right now? Couldn't it be another time? Because right now I want to take a nap, so it's not fitting me, right? But it may fit them. So we get reactive when someone is not like they're not tuning in and naturally feeling what I want, so that they accustom their ways to me. Like that, I don't know, it's almost like we have this idea that they should that they should do that. I do it myself. I've noticed, right, that every time someone, you know, like a truck comes in to gather, you know, like to get the garbage. And of course they should do that. I know that's a thing, right? I even know what day they come. And still it annoys me when I hear them like loudly tumble around with some of the containers. It's still even though I know instantly, oh, it's the garbage truck, right? I know instantly it still annoys me. It's still like, couldn't they just, you know, and it can be anything. It can be the weather. Then it's too hot, then it's too cold, then it's too rainy, then it's too foggy, then it's too hot or burning, or the food is too hot, the drink is too cold. You know, every time we have a reaction where something outside of ourselves is not adapting naturally to us, we have a reaction. And for some, it could be more than others, right? I have just noticed that I wouldn't say I necessarily get like really annoyed, but I have a registration. My brain is picking it up, and instantly it sends a signal somewhere, and I get that feeling like, right? So if we multiply this on Earth, and many people have this, how many people are then not Monday morning thinking like, you know? But again, putting this into perspective of what life once was, we do have different options today. Many people may not feel like they have, but there are options to maybe change certain ways to have a little bit of a better life, right? Or to just, again, put it into perspective, like this garbage truck, is it really that big of a deal for me, right? Should it be such a big deal? No, of course not. Why is it then, right? Why is it such a big deal? Because I'm like a toddler. My brain functions, my nervous system functions like a toddler. I want it my way, and if I don't get it my way, you know, like I'm screaming and complaining and projecting all kinds of stuff onto others, you know, or maybe I'm not doing it, but you get my point. I'm trying to explain it, right? That this dimension allows us to be like that, not to be more. Like the evolutionary state we are in is not allowing us for more than that. We can call ourselves civilized or whatever, but still we are reacting. Why are so many people numbing themselves with cigarettes, with alcohol, with pills, with or you know, like when the weekend comes, they have to like explode. Like, you know, they have held themselves together during the work week, and then when against Friday night, they drink and drug and everything, they just have to release, you know. There's a reason for that, right? It's because we are actually not very good at it. We're not very good at it. Of course, there are, you know, like few people in the world who have figured this out and got themselves totally non-reactive and everything, but many of us are not. We're not very good at it. And another point is that when you actually get to a quiet place, when things are quiet, when things are okay, we don't notice it. We still run the story of the garbage truck. We still run the story of the annoying neighbor or the irritating boss. It's still in our mind, even when we have gotten ourselves home. Everything is quiet. There's nothing going on. It's fine. We can rejuvenate here. But then we gossip about it. We talk to our partner. We say stuff to our children. They say stuff to us. They tell us stories from the kindergarten or from school or something. When we get home, we're actually not resting. We're still replaying the stuff that was too much. That was too much. We're not good at this. It's like we should look a little more at those toddlers with the temper tantrums, right? That's where we are, I feel like. We are not. So the tomatoes kind of also illustrates this evolution that mankind is going through. That this dimension is not allowing us to know or be more. We are like stuck in the 3-year-old position. Maybe that's why it's called third dimension. Right? That when we get a little more evolved, we may also use more of our brain. Like we unlock more in our brain than we have now. And we may actually overcome that stage of this reactiveness, because we are quite reactive still, no matter how civilized you are. Or whatever we may call it, right? It's just we have learned to live together. But many people are not happy, right? They are actually still grumpy. It's like we have this idea that world should accommodate to me so that I'm comfortable. That would be like a baby, right? A baby cries, expects something to accommodate them, so that they get balance and feel harmony. And then when that not happens, when mom says, no, you can't have that lolly, then you get the temper tantrum and you get angry and everything. You scream and toss yourself on the floor and everything, right? That's the rebellious attempt of the 3-year-old to get it its way. But somehow it's like we haven't figured out that the world is not accommodating us to our best way, in our best interest. The world isn't. It's not accommodating. No partner, no child is always perfectly accommodating you. Never. But somehow we have this instinct or something that they should. Or we have deep down like a voice that says they should. Why aren't they doing that? And when they're not doing it, I'm allowed to be grumpy or angry or reactive, whatever. You know, it's like there's a part of us deep down somewhere that feels maybe entitled or something to have that. But the world is not like that. So why aren't we just accepting that? Why aren't we just accepting that the world isn't perfect? It will never, ever, always align with us. Sometimes it will. You will feel the differences. You will have bad, tumultuous, too much, angry, whatever. And then you will also have balance. You just need to recognize it and use it for that. Like that, the stories of this bee, forget it when you are walking out of it, and go home and just rest and do the things that you like. Instead of gossip, you take it with you right home. It's like then you gossip with your friends or something. Yeah, my boss is, and like, do you get my point? It's like we're not the energies that are here, we're not using them right, I think. Like to get the best, whatever we can out of it. We're not very good at playing with them. It's almost like we don't know the rules of this game, the third dimensional game. We haven't been given the rules of it. And I said that even in the Aries reading, it's like we have to get over ourselves. All of us, I think. Me included. Because I am just as bad as this as anyone else. I have third dimensional brain, right? That we come from this, all of us here. So to activate something else, we need perspective. And maybe we also need to get over ourselves, yes. As I said, it's like we need to mature. We need to mature. Well, you know, sometimes we're not saying out loud every time we feel a discomfort. We're just kind of, that's just one of those days, right? That kind of feeling. But I think that there's more to this. If we know what the game is, like the rules of this game is, it's maybe somehow preparing us better. Then we are better prepared. Then we can say we are maybe in the fourth dimension. We have grown a year, right? We know a little more that, okay, I can actually I can't expect the world to accommodate me. Okay, different game, right? That's what I feel like. There's something about becoming, this talks about like love. It talks about the fifth dimension that is here, that it's available. You can tap into the energy. I said in the Gemini reading, to me it comes across, when I tap into it, it comes across as a very gentle, quiet, calm invitation or offering. It's like it's offering something to you. Can you take it? Do you want to take it? Because I think many would say, yeah, I would take it. But not all are actually ready to take it because we still have our walls up. We don't know how to receive it. That's one of the things that come with this as well, right? That we've learned to put up walls and now we are asked to take them down. But the energy is here. That's what I think with this card here. The energy is here and you can tap into it. Maybe you're very good at tapping into it. I don't know, Cancer, whether you are that. But he looks very happy here, right? He's also quite big. It is a Buddha. I don't know, my nose is very itchy. It is a Buddha. And you know, like one of the things I like about the Buddha is actually that he is big and soft, right? Like he's not like a well-trimmed, athletic warrior, this guy. He sits and just laughs. It's like laughing about the dimension. If you somehow figure out what the dimension is about, that maybe you can have a good laugh, right? Laugh at all these old stories that, yeah, I see now that but we are limited. The third dimension existence limits it. It only allows for a certain way of life or a certain way of thinking. The fifth dimension is here to open up but it means that you have to grow your brain. Like you have to get over yourself, as I said. And I'm just as much in this as you are. Like I have to get over myself, right? This understanding that there's something in me that somehow feels that the world outside me should adapt to me. Otherwise, why should I feel grumpy or irritated or frustrated or annoyed or something? Why should I feel that? There must be something that somehow wants the world to adapt to me. And when it's not adapting to me, I get frustrated or annoyed or angry or, so it's like there's a thing in us that wants the world to adapt to us. But it isn't adapting. The third dimension is not adapting to you. The fifth dimension is offering a little more here. But the laugh and the smile and the maybe a little more optimistic or playful energy here seems to be present when you realize that there are different game rules, perhaps. Or that it's about navigation also, I think. That when you realize, okay, something is actually annoying me, why are you in it then? Why are you in it? I think that there's something, like this idea that just go out there and overcome your fears. So, okay, it means that I go out and jump out of the cliff if that's my fear. Because then I can overcome it. But when you go out and you jump right into your utmost fear, it definitely gets highlighted. The point is you should get over it, and then you won't be scared of it again. But while you're in it, everything is up in the air, right? This guy, I feel like, is more like, why do you jump? Like, why do you do that? If you could do something else. Why do people rush into overcoming their fears if they could do something else? Like the world offers so many things if we are just looking. It offers so many different kind of jobs, hobbies, food options. Like there are so many options, different kinds of coffee or beer or something. There are so many why settle for something if there's something else you want more? Why, as I said, why jump into like the worst fear experience ever if you could just sit and relax? Like, I'm not saying that overcoming fears are necessarily a bad thing. I may be offering a different point of view. This guy here, he's not, he sits mostly in meditation. He laughs about life, right? He is relaxed. He's not fearful. He just sits here. He has overcome this idea of, I believe, scarcity, and it's he seems very content, right? And the idea of content or having comfort is exactly what I feel like many people are not having. Like they don't sit in comfort. Like that's what I feel like. When you get home, then sit in comfort. Sit in comfort, do something that is fun or something you like. relax or rejuvenate, take a nap. So like instead of gossiping, you know, blah, 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 keeping the annoying story alive. When we do that, we speak from a low vibrational state of being. But what if we could kind of just say, okay, that is one part of the existence here. And well, I didn't like it. So if I want to do something about that, I'm considering if it's the right job. Or I'm considering if those people are, or those part of the matrix is right for me. Probably not. So either you get out or you get over yourself and realize this is part of existence. That a certain part of life out here is like this. But then when I get home, I can sit like this. Or if I join certain friends, I sit like this. Or if I go in nature, I can be like this. Because it actually is the feeling that it adapts to you, right? That sometimes the world is not adapting. Other times it may, right? It may, the things around you is adapting to you. And then we should be happy. But it's almost like we can't even enjoy it. We don't even sometimes I even believe that people are not even experiencing it. Like when there is actual comfort, they don't even feel it. Like all our antennas are only experiencing or on the outlook or registering discomfort. That's how our brain, I believe, is currently wired in the third dimension. That when we have comfort, when we have certain nice food or something else, well, we may have a satisfaction of it, but it doesn't last very long. As opposed to how much time and effort and energy we can use on the annoying garbage truck. Do you get my point? It's like the good stuff in life, we can almost miss it. We are almost not tuning into it. It lasts shortly, only for a short while. But this other stuff can go on and go on and go on. You know, like the betrayal that someone did to you 5 years ago is still active because you're still talking about it. You still think about it. But you do not no longer think about the dinner you had 3 weeks ago or 4 years ago with that friend. It was a nice dinner, but it's kind of hidden. Like you're not thinking about it. Our brain with the amygdala center is the fear center in the brain is always constantly scanning for the negative. That's how hardwired our brain is about survival and comfort, right? And I believe that the fifth dimension that is here now, it's supposed to be like a growth process. It's like we Earthlings are now ready to become 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds, right? Our brain should be able to, the frequency is there. It's just whether we take it or not. Or we can stay being 3-year-old toddlers with our temper tantrums and reactivity. But this energy is definitely here to give us a little more enthusiasm, perhaps, about life, seeing things in a different perspective, and literally using this time when you are off duty, you could say, when you are out of work, or when you go home, when you actually do have a resting time. And in your home you decide, do you want an apple? Do you want a banana? Do you want a piece of bread or pasta? Do you want soda or water or coffee? You can go and make yourself what it is that you want. Enjoy that. Like, remember that this is actually the opposite of where you feel like you have to like adapt. Now you're in a place where you can choose, right? And so remember that. Remember when you sit in the restaurant and you can choose from the menu, that now the chef out in the kitchen is adapting to your wish. But somehow we just take that for granted, right? That, yeah, but I'm in a restaurant and I pay for it, so of course they should. Yeah. But does it just change a little bit perspective, that if you look at it like, now I'm in the other seat, like, does it make sense what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say? That we could become a little more appreciative of something if we put stuff in perspective. And we are invited on this journey of maturing, I feel like, evolution. At the bottom of the deck, I have Door of Spirit here. I don't know whether that's the reason why Buddha is here, because you could say he could be the sense of an ascended master. Spirit here. That spirit can enter your life if you can sit in more appreciation or gratitude, perhaps here. And that is where a bigger spark of maybe enthusiasm and play may come in, right? Or it says here bravery or optimism, right? That if you could take yourself into a different space of smiling a little more, being a little more happy about the life that you have and the circumstances that you have, and that there are times where you are the one, where you are the one, right? Where that when the chef in the kitchen of the restaurant adapts to you and serves you the menu that you want, now it's like now you are in that place. You know, like, and actually becoming aware when this happens, when the sun shines. If you like the sun, of course. Now the world is adapting to something you like, right? The sun is shining, so now it's like, this is when you drive to your work in the morning and the sun shines, and you may like the warmth of it. You may like that it shines, the sun shines on everything so that we can see it. Therefore, colors and everything become more vibrant when the sun is there. And when the sun is not there, it's all gray. So if you like the colors and the sun is there, okay, it's adapting to what you like. Do you get my point? It's like we can become a little more aware about times when you know you have a little headache and your children are actually trying to be quiet because they want to like not disturb you. We can take that into consideration also, right? That okay, here is actually an energy that wants to try to adapt to me and what I need at the moment. Becoming a little more appreciative of when life is actually offering us something where we are in charge, or where things are adapting to the needs we have. And we can become aware also of choosing situations where there's a little more of that. Does it make sense? Like, I hope it makes sense. I've just thought about this, that we can easily become absorbed in the things that don't feel right, and that we feel like we can't escape. Where there are demands like school or work, and the demands are not always accustomed to us, or, like comforting for us. It's not a comfort thing to be doing that necessarily. Some love their work, of course, but many also do not. They do it because they need the money, right? Some are also not, like they are absorbed in the idea that I want to live in this town. I want to live in that area of this town. I want certain clothes, or I want a certain car. So I need a certain income. My children have to go to this school. Even though all of these desires, thoughts, and needs are all a process of your ego, and you could change them. Many are not changing them because they want the comfort. They want things to be what the ego tells it to be. So they stay in the same job. They're not quitting the job, not until they are burned out or something. They stay there because they want to maintain this life. But you could move. But you could take your children and everything, move to the countryside where things are maybe cheaper. You can live a different life. But many are not doing it, right? Because they have these needs and desires that I talked about, right? And it controls the way we think. So somehow I feel like I'm talking to a Cancer who has maybe one part of life where there has been, like an understanding of I want to say where perspective was maybe and I'm saying this for me, myself, more egotistical, right? That it was based off like old programming and the desires that we want and need and are looking for. But in that, we are also betraying ourselves. We are taking some of the best times of our lives away. If we stay in this mode all day, we take it with us home. We gossip with friends and family and partners. We even take it with us when we go to sleep. We're still angry or frustrated. It takes some of the best times of our lives from us. It could be, it could be that you stand in a queue at the groceries and you just feel like it's taking like too long. And it becomes an even more uncomfortable experience because the one in front of you is now actually really starting to attack and become very aggressive towards the clerk or the cashier, right? So now not only are you annoyed, but you're also confronted with someone else's anger towards this cashier, or that's trying to just get things done. It's their job, right? So this could be a total experience of maybe 20 minutes. But those 20 minutes you take with you in your car back home. You talk about it in your home with whoever is there. You may even think about it before you go to bed. So it hijacks our good times. I feel like the card is here to really remind us, and you, Cancer, to remember the good times, right? To remember times that are calmer. You are the first water sign. I call you first water. It means that, what does that mean? It means the youngest water. And the youngest water, we know that. I've just explained it. The youngest consciousness, the youngest feelings of a human being is a baby. It's not evolved. It's not very evolved. Like, it's sensitive. It's romantic in its essence. Like the baby, it cries. It expects that something comes and soothes everything. It's young in that way. And I'm a Cancer sun myself, so I'm really not saying this to... It's just a realization that I've had about myself, that for other water signs that have experienced other things like the Scorpios and the Pisces, I believe maybe they are better at discerning, or, like they have been around more. They are older, you could say, in the zodiac. They are older, they are more mature, or they have at least experienced more. How they react to it is a different manner, right? Or a different thing. But the first water, to me, it makes very good sense. Like, a baby likes... it likes to be balanced. It likes its needs to be met. It likes to be like warm and comfort, and that the task that it's given is not too much. It has to like adapt, or it has to be right. It has to fit, right? And when it fits, the baby is not unhappy. It fits. And then the baby will play or sing or dance or enjoy itself. But if you put too much on it, it will start crying, or it will put forth the temper tantrum, because I can't deal with this, right? I want it the other way. I want it as it was before. So here we have an energy in the Cancer collective, I believe, including myself, that is asking that something is accommodating me. Maybe not always, again, the yin and yang, but there must be some of it. And some of it you can give yourself, right? Some of it you can give yourself if you become aware of it. Otherwise, you sit in this too long, too much, or you could be. some of the good times we can give ourselves, including myself, right? Including myself, we can give ourselves like better experiences if we remember this other side, that we don't cling to the old stories here, that we don't dance with this all the time, because then it will muddy, it will darken our feelings, it will lower our vibration, and we will not rejuvenate. There will not be a place or a time where we are resting and actually feel comfortable and happy and can sit here and laugh and feel okay. We have to remind ourselves of this. But I think that it's actually also here when you let go of the old stories of your ancestors. If you can forgive, again, there's something about holding on to stories. Like if you can't forgive your parents or a sibling or, a grandfather or a grandmother, if you can't forgive them, you hold on to these horrific stories and they become something, it plays out in your mind. And if you can somehow let it go, if you can release yourself from it, you can have more of these times here. Again, as I said, this story about the cashier and experience, right? That maybe it was 20 minutes of your day, and you should let it be only those 20 minutes then. You shouldn't take it with you home. You should say, okay, this stays here when you leave the store, right? This stays here. That you're not taking it with you. Because then it is influencing now your time in the car home, right? Or when you sit with your girlfriends. Then you will never have balance, right? The balance where you should have stillness, rejuvenation, restoring your batteries, feeling good and calm and happy and joyous and comfortable. It will never come if you take the stories with you back there. You will not have it. Then the stories keep. It's like it has an invasion in your good time then. Like the possible good time you could have, it's like this is kind of invading. It's invading it. Does it make sense? Unless you become very aware of it. Unless you say, okay, yeah, but it's part of this dimension. Like this dimension is made up of dualism. So when something bad happens, we should let it stay there because there is also this other. But sometimes we're not even recognizing it. And in this place, when you sit here, whatever it is for you, I hear ballet dance, ballet lessons, quiet times with friends, rejuvenating on the couch, or, sitting outside in the sunshine, whatever it is for you. I don't know. It could be anything. But when you sit here, you should allow this in. When we sit in something we like, we smile, we are more open, we are more receptive, we can actually let the good stuff in. And as I've also said in the other readings, that when we are angry or frustrated, or we contract, we put walls around ourselves to protect ourselves towards all this bad stuff out there. We ourselves actually become more unhappy. And it's a closed energy that is not allowing something good to come in. And grace disappears. Kindness disappears. Softness, receptivity, as I said, it disappears. It's not there. So all the things that characterize feminine energy disappears. And I believe for a Cancerian that is a really bad thing, right? Because you are a feminine water sign. So the most beautiful aspects of you can disappear if you don't like choose that this must exist in my life, right? That I'm reminding myself of this. Otherwise, my life gets too masculine and closed off and non-receptive. And then the fifth dimension, you will not be able to feel it, hear it, tune into it. Like you're into, again, the feminine aspect of you, your intuition, maybe your psychic gifts, it will all close down. Or at least it could be, and I'm just saying that the balance comes when this is, it must be in your awareness. You must choose it, right? You must choose to remind yourself, oh, now it's actually quiet, or oh, how nice it is to put myself in bed now. How comfortable my cushion is, and how warm and nice it is here. Like actually becoming aware of it, instead of thinking about the alarm clock next morning and the meetings and whatever. Like taking that time to just be mindful. And as I said, you go and choose in the refrigerator, right? What is it you want? And you think by yourself, yeah, how wonderful it is that I'm in charge, right? I'm in charge of what's in there, and I'm in charge of what I'm eating. It's up to me. There is a lot of food choice out there. You decide what it is. You can choose anything. Like, unless you are poor and lives in Ethiopia and starving, of course, if you live in areas like that. But otherwise, in the Western world, like there are so many things to choose from. It's quite abundant, if we think about it. And we can choose whatever. Then there are certain other things that come in. It has to be healthy, or it has to be nutritious, or it should be good for the children, and so that's another thing. But if we look at it, there's so much stuff. Styles of clothes and designs and whatever. There's so much to choose from, right? It's just up to us to actually see that there's something abundant, to see it. Not just look at the price tags and things that everything is too expensive, right? Actually, there are choices. There are choices. You can buy secondhand. Still choices. It's a matter of opening our eyes and see beyond what feels maybe like as only discomfort. That it's not constantly pleasing our something in us. That when we can open our mind to that and have a different perspective, the third dimension is not accommodating you. It's not designed to do so. The fourth dimension, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, it will be different. But we're going through an evolutionary step, and I think it helps, it helps us to understand what kind of game or what kind of stage we are in. Sometimes I feel like it's like we are all combating it. Like we are in some kind of competitive stage with state or stage with the world. That part of us still wants the world to accommodate to us. It's like we're not allowing it. We're not allowing the world to be what it is. Something outside of ourselves to be its own individual self. Like we want it to, like it should be obvious that they of course adapt to me, right? There's something in our brain that says this. Even the best mothers, like who can adapt to their children and everything. Sometimes it's probably annoying that the child cries at night, right? Because they want to sleep. That the child should accommodate to the mother's need for sleep. But it doesn't. Nothing in the third dimension does. So it's something about our brain. We can stay in that mindset and constantly be frustrated about stuff. Or we can try to change our mindset a little bit and now know that there will be times where it's not comforting, and there will be times where it can be if I choose it to be, right? If I become aware of it. We can have a different aspect with our intuition, specifically for you, Cancer, with this reading, right? That something opens here. Maybe that's why I have Buddha. Buddha can represent any kind of deity, I think. But it's like, I feel like he wants to remind us about good times, right? Love. And you are a water sign, right? And you like romance. You like the idea of the good, fulfilling relationship and magic and unicorns and fairies and princesses, and all this stuff is somehow nice, right? You have to choose to be optimistic, right? You have to choose to sit down and rest sometimes and tune in and let this other part of the world just be as it is. Like it's a yang thing. The world is very masculine, right? It's a yang thing, and you decide now to have your yin thing going on. A nice bath or candlelight or whatever, incense, whatever feels right for you, you do that. It's just somehow these circles here, drops, bubbles, are somehow standing out to me. 4 here and 6 here. So like, well, 4 cups would talk about reminiscing. 6 cups talks about old romantic, or you could say well, reminiscing. And then 6 of cups is like past beautiful experiences, maybe from childhood or even past lives, reminiscing about the good old times. Six of Cups can be beautiful childhood memories. I would go as far as also say past lives. It's almost like this guy here, door to spirit. Like if this is like a spirit guide here, he wants to come in and tell us to remember the good old times, right? Or remember good times. Remember stuff maybe from your childhood, or like, you know, old hobbies. Something that could make you laugh or be happy here, or relax, rejuvenate. Again, he's not, as I said, he's like this relaxed old grandfather, right? He's not, you know, like top-tuned, athletic body here. He likes good food, and, you know, like the good food and good laughter. That kind of feeling, right? That there is something about reminiscing in one hand and then the good old times in the other hand. Like, worrying. 4 of Cups here can also be worrying about something that could, whether something is lost, worrying about whether you have wasted your time on something and it's actually lost. But the card also suggests that you're so focusing on 3 of the Cups that you're not seeing the 4th one being offered to you. And again, I must see this like, again, like a message, like you're so focused on the 3 cups, the 3rd dimension, that you're not seeing the one that is being offered, that there's coming something else in here. You have to become aware of it. And it's actually a jolly energy here, right? You really have to choose it and tune into it. Sometimes when I look at this guy, he comes across to me like a giant baby. Like, you know, like this, like the tummy and like the round face and everything. He looks like a giant baby here to me. That could again be this feeling that wanting things to be when you are a baby. So you cry and then mommy comes. So me crying, changes the world so that it accommodates to me and my needs. Does that make sense? Like, wanting the 10 of Cups. So wanting like the world to adapt to you. And when we are not babies anymore, so we are not crying now. No, maybe now we are gossiping, or we are yelling, or we are screaming, or we are writing complaints, or, you know, like we get into arguments, we project stuff. But there is this feeling of wanting back to the good old times where things were, where I was comforted here. This also, was that in the Aries reading, that there's this feeling of, with this card also I get the feeling of like oneness, like this idea that when we incarnate here as souls from oneness is like this idea that a consciousness thing where everything that we see is split up in atoms here, that is divided here on earth, is one blended experience. And we exist there in perfect balance, perfect yin and yang. That's why the yin and yang symbol is a circle, and then we have the division in it. But it's one circle that is whole, and in it there's perfect balance between yin and yang. And then we exist as a consciousness in there. If I take that memory with me and incarnate here, I will feel the difference. Now I'm no longer in oneness. Actually, everything is split up. Like, this is one atom, right? These are 3 others. They all represent something. They have an opposite. They have a different, an opposite. As I said in the beginning, I exist, I have an opposite. If I'm yin, there's a yang. So here everything is split up. We can see it, like we can look at all the different foods and all the different grass and plants and everything. Everything is just an atom or an energy frequency. We can just like see the difference and we can choose between it. As I said, what makes you happy here? You can choose things that you like, and someone else would choose something they like. As I said, if I have an opposite, if I'm a yin and I have an opposite somewhere, they are probably different than me and choose differently than me. That's why the world is so abundant. There has to be something for everyone. That makes sense to me. Like, there are all these kinds of possibilities, and each of them is chosen by someone. I choose something, you choose something else. My opposite will choose something different. This is an atom, right? Everything are different atoms. My son is a gamer, of course he has this one, he chooses this, right? That's it. So, you know, there's so much out there. That's the abundance of the world we live in. There could be things we say that are bad, and there are things that could be good, but anyway, it's still here. We can choose from it. The point is, what are you choosing? And what do you keep in your mind? What spins in your mind? Do you want that 30-minute experience in the queue at the store ruin all your day? Or, you know, like determine all your day? Or do you want it to be just those 20 minutes? And when I get and sit in my car, I totally release it and just let it go, because I know it's part of this dimension. It cannot be anything else. I believe that when we start becoming aware of this more, we will be happier, right? There will be a spark of like a more, maybe optimistic idea about this dimension. And this is one of the things that raise the vibration, that we become, because now we are aligning the time. As I said, that if this invades your good time, then this dominates and there's less of this. So we will have 80% of this and 20% of this. That is not balance. The energy that wants to come in now wants to balance this. So you may have the feeling of 50% and 50% of this. It would allow for a sense of a more balanced life, right? But we have to become aware of it and actually do it. Think about it every day. Keep it near to our heart. This is what I believe in. This is what I see or feel is coming. And I feel it's here. Like this energy is already here. We just really need to like understand it. The oneness we come from is this existence that we are in perfect balance. If for some reason a part of our brain remembers that, we take that for granted. It's where we come from. Like in the womb. We come from the womb where everything is peachy, right? Everything is served there. Great. You can sleep when you want, you can eat when you want, you can pee when you want. Who cares, right? It's just in the bubble. So when we get from oneness, where everything is just in perfect balance, we incarnate here, we have a human experience here as a soul for growth understanding. It's like we are put here to understand that where we come from is not to be taken for granted. It's one way of existence. Now you are in a different existence, but it's like a part of our brain won't accept it. We're competing against it. We get grumpy, angry, so on. We're not really accepting it. Maybe we should just accept it. Then we would understand why it is like this. And we would also say, oh, now I just had one of those experiences. But when I get home, I can have one of the other. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense that and when you get home and you actually want to rejuvenate or refresh yourself or feel relaxed, like it's a choice not to let this invade, right? It's a choice that you're deciding, no, damn it, no, I don't want this to like invade my good time, right? I'm in charge of both of them. I decide what I want to take with me and what I don't want to take with me. And it helps if you are releasing yourself also from old stories about your parents or, you know, like their way of living. If you have had a hard time forgiving your parents or forgiving a sibling or forgiving a grandparent or something. You know, it could be even if you have a storyline that you knew, let's say, you know that in the 1800s, there was one of your ancestors who killed himself. So he hanged himself. And he left behind his wife and 4 children. So now the wife and the mother and the 4 children were left without a provider. They were left without a father, a protector, and maybe the mother had to now work, and it changed the entire household. It changed the way the family was living. And those children, they grow up now with a very poor understanding, right? And a very exhausted mother, because she had to be everything. She had to be the provider, the guide, the guardian, the protector, the mother, sometimes probably also the father if she could. And what we know about that time, well, wages for women were probably low. They probably lived a life of feeling, or again, like it was probably a life of lack. And those children grow up, if they survive, and have their own children. But that story still stays there, right? So if you know something about that, you way back 4 generations back or something, someone killed themselves. So they took their own life, left someone unprotected, perhaps, right? Or they died in the war or something. It has created a story. An inheritance, they're carrying an inheritance of lack or grief or loss, right? And we have to release ourselves from that, not be angry about it. As I said, that experience that may have been created in the past, like maybe generations back, is not supposed to be something you hang on to, like that experience with the clerk or the cashier in the 20-minute line. You're not supposed to hold on to it. Even though it was uncomfortable, unloving, unkind, aggressive, you're not supposed to hold on to it. But I know that people have. It was part of our storyline. We grew up with those stories. We grew up with the feelings. We're just not supposed to, I think. Like it's part of this. So if we don't do something to enhance this, we just stay here. Like this keeps invading our private space, right? Unless we do something about it. And it's beautiful energy. Like if you can really tap into this, choose it. Like choose to stay in that energy, really rejuvenate, be happy when you are off. It can activate magic. It brings back optimism and maybe new ideas here, new creative ideas perhaps, new spark for life here, right? It opens doors. Maybe, like restrictive walls, that's one of the, you could say escape mechanisms for cancers, or you could say negative manifestation is that we build walls around ourselves to protect ourselves. But it seems here like you can open the door to that wall. And that's how you also like become receptive. You allow something in that can be beautiful and magical and everything here. You just have to balance the scales more. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. And I'm just as much in it as you are, right? I am a product of this generation and everything myself. So I'm not in any way better than any other of you out there. I feel like we're just in it together. And what I get from the reading is this. So this is my message. I hope this somehow helped or gave thought, like created a different thought pattern, or, like it's, yeah, that's what I feel. As always, take care of yourself. I send you my very best love and light to you all, Cancer. Bye-bye.